Hi, my name's Alan Stockdale and welcome to Escape the Matrix, and today I'm talking to a guy called Jon Witterick. Now this guy is quite a legend in my book, because one of the ways I helped myself to get out of debt was by finding the information on the internet, and it was Jon who actually created the website on the back of Elizabeth Croft's information. And the website itself is absolutely brilliant. It's awesome. If you're anybody listening to this and you're in debt and you want to know how to get out of it for free, it doesn't charge anything. All the information, templates and everything's on the website, and it works. It's worked for me and it's worked for lots of people I know. So I just wanted to say that before I went any further. Right then, Jon, are you there?
I'm here, Alan, yeah.
Oh, good man, good man. Like I said, you're a bit of a hero for me, Jon.
Right. Well, you know what it is, Mary Elizabeth Croft was a bit of a hero to me, and all I did, I don't take any accolade for actually getting the site up, because all it was to begin with was basically just a really basic site with her letters on, and it's just gradually grown and grown and grown. So yeah, I mean, she's my hero, and all I did was take her information and run with it, basically.
Yeah, well, that's all we all can do, isn't it? I mean, the information I put out, it's just what I've learned off other people, or people come on the show and share their views. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's getting the information out there. But like I said, the website itself is really, really good. So I mean, I do congratulate you on the construction of it, because I do website design myself, and I see yours and I think, wow, that's pretty good.
Well, it's very simple. All you have to do is go to Theme Forest. I think it's .com, and you can have a template just like it. In fact, you can have it absolutely identical for about $18. So,
wow.
Yeah, all we do is, it's you've got to have a modern design. It was a choice, because before that, do you remember the previous design?
No, when I first came across it, it was a lot like it is now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the previous design. It was a little bit more in keeping with Get Out of Debt Free, because it was sort of like still had sort of like cartoony aspect to it, and it also had the Waddington's man escaping out the cage, and it wasn't until it's another company beginning with H. Is it Hasbro that have actually got it now? But anyway, their legal team got on to us and gave us 10 days to take the man off all our stuff. But the great thing was that they, we'd got away with it for something like 7 years before we had to give up the little debt-free man. But yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I noticed I'm a great fan of UK Column, and I noticed on that yesterday you guys, not just you but lots of other people, had done a conference regarding all sort of getting yourself out of the mess that we're in this country, and it applies to other places in the world. I just wondered if you wanted to sort of give us an overview about what the conference, what it was and what it was called.
Yeah, it was the UK Column conference with some of the guys from the British Constitution group. Absolutely amazing weekend. There were a few of us that thought it might have ended up a little bit doom and gloom, and I think it's really important at the moment that we focus on solution-based stuff. But there were so many people sharing totally amazing solutions. We're now getting to the point where people are going into court, and normally they keep the power games so that the magistrate or the judge will actually have you like a deer in the headlamps. It's now turning round where we've got them absolutely crapping themselves. What with whether it's mortgages, whether it's some of the more unpleasant things like child abuse, because there were plenty of that. But it was generally looking at the law, money, and and basically children's homes and what's been going on in government. So, and there is so much information coming to light at the moment that I think, and a lot of people feel that this year the floodgates are going to open and the truth is going to come out. So much has already come out. But when, you know, already there's a lot of reporters on newspapers that keep getting sort of like little articles through, you know, especially Guardian, Telegraph, and the Mail. Funnily enough, the three papers that seem to have the most truth coming out, but or just occasional stories that come out. I think, my goodness, that's a surprise. And I feel the floodgates are opening. We had Michael Doherty, who's been doing amazing work, absolutely amazing work. He's like a top barrister when he's in court and with his knowledge, and yet he's a qualified aircraft engineer. But what he's done, he's just said, no, I'm not putting up with the crap anymore. And he just seems to have got it absolutely cracked. So very exciting. A lot of these videos are going to be coming out on the UK column. Yeah, keep your eyes open for it.
Awesome. I will. So would you say it's getting to a point then, John, where people used to go into court before and they just did whatever the judge said? They, like you said, they just crapped themselves, for a better word, and they just did whatever they said. Now you're getting to a point where people are empowering themselves enough to go in court and take charge. Then is that what you're saying? Yeah,
well, there's a few guys. There's some guys from Northern Ireland, and they are doing, and they're also getting together with the guys in the south as well. So you've got Ireland coming together, uniting with the truthers. I'm absolutely brilliant. There was a guy there who'd got no sort of like previous background, but he decided to stop paying his mortgage because he wasn't. He'd done a little bit of research on the mortgage, and he decided to stop paying it. And his name's Anthony, and he was remarkable because this was the first time he'd gone into court, and he actually got hold of. He started reading Mary Elizabeth Croft's book. And she was like talking about the papal decree, which is something that I haven't really looked into in any great detail yet. But anyway, what he did, he incorporated this into his documents. And before he started, he went into court and he sort of like handed them this, this document, which they took, and he did the old symbol, it's so they but anyway, right, we're going to take a 20-minute recess, which is quite, adjournment, so it's quite normal. And then an hour and a half later, the judge comes back without his robes on. He's got a suit on.
Yeah.
And so this guy Anthony's thinking, right, change of jurisdiction. I've heard about this. It all goes to the, I think they start off, I can't remember the actual, I'd have to look it up to explain it, but I think if they leave 3 times, I think every time they leave the room, there can be a change of jurisdiction. So this is something that happens. And he realised what was going on, but they kept, and you could see this guy was really nervous. It was almost like he'd been caught out. This guy won the case, and he's quite happy to share the documents with us, and which we're looking forward to having a look at, and the procedure and the whole lot. And of course, because it's in Northern Ireland, using exactly the same law as they do in this country in most cases. So be very interesting to see the full details on that case.
It will be, yeah. Just when you first started explaining that, you did break off a little bit with the recording. Did you say he got into court for a mortgage? Was that? Did you say
it was a mortgage? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then he sort of he gave him all his. Well, like I said, you broke up, so I couldn't really hear what you said. So he just gave them what he knew, and they just kept changing jurisdiction to try and get around that. Yeah, is that
That's
right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So are we actually going to see some of this evidence then, like you said, on either your website or videos or something? What we can all see how we did it.
I'm sure his video will go out, but we're hoping that we'll get the information off him, and I'll try and get hold of it. I'm sure he'll be quite happy to share his documents. So
awesome.
I will keep everyone updated with that.
That sounds really good. Right, can I just explain, for some of a lot of the people that listen to my videos, I mean, I've only just started making them probably over the last couple of months, but I do a lot of spiritual stuff, and a lot of people listening to this, John, won't really know much about money creation at the banking system and stuff of that nature. So I was wondering if you could just actually sort of give people a layman's view of, you know, that side of thing. Why did this guy get from not paying his mortgage? Why was that? Just sort of explain what the scam is of the banking system and the money system, if you could.
Well, with the mortgages, specifically with the mortgages, what's actually happening? I mean, there's so many different levels to it. You know, it goes round and round. There's lots of layers, but I like to keep things really, really simple. So with the mortgages, what happens is when you so-called borrow money, of course you don't. You actually create it yourself. But what they do, you will actually sign the mortgage agreement, and that agreement, they basically don't sign it, and they get it to become a promissory note, so which is worth the value of the mortgage. Then what the actual bank does, because they're greedy, they then sell that promissory note, well, not individually, they bundle them up, and this is called securitization. And you probably heard about securities, you know, it's some sort of meaningless word you hear on the news, you know, and but that's what it is. It's when they bundle up, and this is what caused the 2007-2008 crash, is when you had these what they called toxic debts. It's because they had so many of these mortgages that were basically worth nothing because so many people couldn't pay them back. That the whole, you know, basically the bottom dropped out of the market. So effectively, we're in, we're in a similar position now, where, you know, the whole thing's going to tip up. But anyway, going back to this chap, basically, you know, he actually proved that the bank couldn't actually provide the original paperwork for the mortgage. And the reason they can't provide the original paperwork for the mortgage is it's been sold on. And so this is the fraud that's going on. So what they do, they basically, create the money out of thin air, but then they sell you documentation. And so the bank at this point have lost nothing, but they've actually they've basically sold the money, obviously sold the actual documents cheaply. I mean, the levels of fraud within banking will astound most people. But and the courts are actually backing this up. However, yeah, it is just about to change. But, you know, I say that, you know, what I do when I do a talk, and I'm sure my talk will be up on the internet. When I do a talk, I actually start off by saying to people, has anyone here had a loan? And, you know, you get about half the audience put their hand up. And I actually say, no, you haven't. You haven't had a loan. There was no money in the first place. You know, it's like the banks don't have money. They pretend that, you know, they're lending you money because that's why you go to a bank. But that's why, you know, supermarkets can create banks. You know, that's why Tesco's can set up a bank. It doesn't have to, like, borrow money to set it up. They create money out of thin air. And, you know, as well, you know, Alan, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I do, yeah. But like I said, I just like to explain it for the viewers, yeah. So basically, you're saying then you go into a bank, you think that the bank's actually going to give you some of their money. They're not.
Yep.
They're giving the money. What's in your digits on your account is actually the money you've created. So
yes.
And then they expect you to pay back that plus the interest, and then at the end of all that, they do the defrauding where they make you lose your house, and then they sell your house as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It wouldn't be so bad, them doing this, but they're doing it, and they're making people homeless. There are people now taking their lives because of debt, basically. So, we're a really sad state of affairs where some people are taking it quite seriously, obviously. You know, if you've got losing your family home, it's very, very difficult. And these people that kick people out are, don't give really don't care. However, things are changing. What Michael Doherty said, he's actually told the police that he'd do a training course for them because they're not aware. This is something that came up that a lot of people's houses, they have paperwork. They're often using forms which have got pre-printed seals on them. So they're not properly sealed and they're not properly signed. So this makes these documents fraudulent. But the trouble is the bailiffs and the police still act on them. So just recently, and this is something that Mark Salon told us about at the weekend, was that there was a case where a lady had the bailiffs outside. She was obviously quite worried. Unfortunately, she had an asthma attack. They had to call the ambulance. The ambulance guys came, took her to hospital, but left the door open. In that time, the bailiffs went in and started removing things. Somebody else called the police. The police said, hang on a minute, can we see your documentation? And this is almost unheard of. But there are police now who are beginning to actually follow the rules. And these are things that we've, the truth movement and response have been sort of like going on about for ages, is that you've got to have properly signed and stamped documentation. And we saw this with Guy Taylor as well, where they actually took the manor off him twice because he got it back once, still with completely fraudulent paperwork. And but anyway, the police turned up and they said, oh, let's see the paperwork. And they looked at it, and of course it wasn't stamped. He said there wasn't a wet signature. And so what they did, they actually arrested the bailiffs, made sure they put the goods, and so the bailiffs are looking at aggravated burglary.
Wow.
So this is unheard of. You know, the whole weekend, we thought it might have been a little bit of sort of doom and gloom, lots of people saying how terrible everything is. But I tell you, there were so many totally amazing stories coming from so many people. And, you mentioned the spiritual thing. Well, it's very difficult for somebody who sort of like thinks it's something to do with religion, unless you've actually had a bit of a wake-up call, then it's very difficult to put it into practice. But you realise that there's a sort of like, I don't like the God word. I prefer the universe.
Oh, well, yeah. Don't worry, reviewers are not into the God word. It's all about
Well, I can deal with it now because I think it's the same thing as the universe. But I think the universe is intelligent.
Correct.
When you work in alignment with the truth, magical things happen. If you're completely in alignment with the truth and you're honest, and they use all sorts of quite dark occult stuff, and these are the sort of like the big bankers have always used occult tools, and they're very, very dark, a lot of this. And I think this is where it ties in with the sort of child abuse as well, because they do lots of sort of stealing energy in lots of different forms, basically to control everyone. And all we're doing is basically saying, look, we're waking up. At one time everyone was fast asleep and could put up with all this stuff. Now people are waking up. So, things are changing, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to those police, what you said, that actually arrested the bailiffs. I mean, up to that, you saying that I've never seen any videos on YouTube. It's always been the other way around. Do you think that is mainly because the police are just uneducated on the law, and they just don't realise it? I don't think
I think it's probably a little bit more than that, Alan, because it's not that they're sort of uneducated and don't know any better. It's because they actually work together. We know that very often the police and the bailiffs are in either phone or email contact with each other beforehand. We've done freedom of information requests, which has proven that to be the case. So, and also you've got to realise that a lot of the Masons tend to tie this all in, and you've got to realise that also, you just think, where do all the barristers have their chambers in this country? Well, it's in they're all in. It's in the City of London.
Yeah.
So you've got to realise, it's Temple Bar. It all comes back from the Templars, which is like tied in with the Masons.
Yep.
So we're talking about esoteric practices, which I think at one time probably working for the good. I think the Templars were working for the good for many years, but I think what's left of them has been infiltrated. And now the banks will almost always rule, or the judges will always rule for the banks. But that's changing. We actually had an ex-magistrate there at the weekend who had actually been thrown out for making the decisions. So there are people waking up at all levels of society at the moment, and I think this is it's not just the information that we have to get out, but it's also the energy, because I think this is a battle for consciousness, and those people that aren't particularly conscious because they're too busy trying to survive and pay their mortgage off, and when they come home knackered in the evening, all they can do is put television on, go to bed, and then repeat times 5, get 2 days off, and and then repeat. It's crazy what people's lives have come to. So it's a matter of trying to get yourself out, and if people aren't ready to wake up, you can tell them what's going on. You can say, look, 9/11 was brought down by thermite or energy beams or whatever, but it certainly wasn't brought down by aircraft fuel, and they won't believe you because they're not ready to, and their own established view of the world is too powerful to be interrupted, so they would prefer to stick with a fictitious view of the world based on what they've been told rather than the truth, because they're not ready for the truth.
No,
a bit like this, wasn't it?
Have you put the volume on your computer? Because I just heard an echo then. Are you there, John?
Yeah, I'm here.
It's okay. It's disappeared now. It's just when I said a few words before, it was echoing. Yeah, I think you're completely right about. I mean, we're on the same page with a lot of the stuff you're talking about with the consciousness. Because I mean, at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, what they do on a subliminal level with the TV, for instance, and movies, they're just brainwashing you. So even when you come home at night after you've said you've done your day's work, still all they do is sit there and watch brainwashing news, what's telling them fear, 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 to keep them in the box and worry more. And the more you raise your vibration above that and realise it is all, because I mean my show's called Escape the Prison Matrix, and that's what it's all based on. Yeah, once you do that, you see what this banking system's all about. And when you was going on about the Masons and the police, I mean I was going to say that I think there is police out there what are just innocently don't know what they're doing, but I do believe that the Masons have their cohorts what are all infiltrated, all the police inspectors, all the main areas. So when it actually gets a little bit too, like people like us, like saying things, doing things what they don't like, they just come down on it like a ton of bricks. But what's happening now is, like you said, everyone's getting together, everyone's realising what's happening, and they can't do that no more. They can't keep the lid on it, can they, John? So the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, and it's just going to get better and better for us, I think.
It certainly is, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just mention now, there's a slight clicking when you're talking. I'm not sure what that is.
Hang on, I'll just move my microwave away from my glasses. Oh, thanks for that. That'll save me listening to that when I'm doing the editing.
Okay.
Right, going back to that conference, John, there was one thing I wanted to ask you. We talked about it before we came on, and it was about mentioning the grand juries. Could you just please explain to me and the viewers what a grand jury is, how that works, and how that can help?
Certainly, yeah. What a grand jury is basically a jury of between 12 and 23 jurors, okay? And so these are people from normal walks of life, and as long as they haven't got any interest in the case, then, so they're not going to be sort of like actually either, family members or, from the family of the person actually presenting the witness. But it's not to find people guilty, it's to see, what we were doing, it was to see whether 12, good men, there were obviously women as well, but this is the word in the law, something like 12, at least 12 to 23 men, who would actually see if there was a case to be answered. So that's all we do. We weren't trying to find people guilty. We were just looking at the evidence. So the evidence was put forward to us in the statement. We then were able to ask questions of the witness, and the witness could then answer those questions. We had 4 of these going on with 4 different cases, and all with a minimum of 12, 12 jurors, obviously. 3 of them found there was a case to answer. The 4th one failed on a technicality. I can't obviously, say any more than that because. But it wasn't, it was a technicality rather than evidence-based. So it wasn't that the evidence wasn't strong enough. It was the fact that there was a technicality within the decision-making process which allowed them not to be able to come to a decision. So it was, very exciting. This was the first time since 1933 that grand juries have actually been held in this country. In America, they still use them. They use them, but unfortunately, they do get nobbled. So this is one thing you can be very careful with grand juries, is that they're not being set up, or you haven't got infiltrators within them. Not a problem we were going to have, but it's something that has happened in America. So. Yeah, very, very exciting, and it was great to be part of that. That weekend, because there are going to be people now who are going to be getting a little bit worried, a little bit scared. Things are changing, and this is something I said at some point. What we'll be able to do is sort of, send a message to the elite. And given certain names of people that we know are responsible for criminal actions, and suggest to them that they actually go along to their nearest private police station that their mates probably own. Sorry, not police station, prison, because, mind you, the police stations are being privatised now as well, for that matter. So, actually, no, police custody would probably be just as well, but they might be safer in prison because they'll need big walls around them to stop, because we won't be able to guarantee their safety home if I would like to see all those responsible for crimes actually face a jury of 12 of their peers. But I think when the people that have been reading the sort of newspapers and the television suddenly realise the extent to the lies, then there are going to be mobs out looking for these people. And we're not going to be able to guarantee their safety. So I think it's going to be safer for them to step down, go into custody, and where they can be safe. And this is going to happen. This is going to happen because there's too much information coming out, and so it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think the actual matter of time? Do you think that's because of the power of the internet getting the message out there, or do you think actually some of the I know the media's all owned by the elite, but do you think some more independent media is going to get more message out to enough people for the general sheeple, as I call them, to wake up to like you said, what's happening with all this child abuse and the abuse of everything?
There's 2 things going on here. One is information. And obviously information on what's been happening is, I can remember years ago, a friend of mine was speaking to David Icke, and David Icke was saying all of these things about, what was going on. He thought, oh my goodness, I don't believe that for a moment. And, David Icke was actually naming names of high-ranking politicians which have turned out to be, now in the mainstream. Leon Britton was one of those. Yeah. And so now we know that, at one point, but the lid isn't anywhere. We've got so many people that are actually being implicated in either the abuse or what I believe is just as serious is actually not reporting it or hiding evidence. And this was great that Cameron actually said, that what they want is everyone to sort of like whistleblow on kids, because then of course on parents, and then of course they can take parents away. So anyone's got the slightest sort of like, if the kids come in with a bruised knee or something, they think, oh my goodness, that kid's been abused, and so social services will like go straight in there. But those kids that are taken away from their parents tend to be at more risk than those that are actually abused by parents. This is the crazy thing. Once they get in the system, they really, the evidence that we heard over the weekend, there's some frightening things going on.
Yeah, I saw a video of a lady. You might know her name, right? I just can't think of her name. She was on what was the show now? Richie Allen's show. The one from People's Voice. And she went over to Brussels, I think it was, or European Court or something.
Yeah.
And she was sat there, and she was telling of the amount of children that are getting taken off parents in this country, and just so basically put into paedophile rings. Really, that's all. Yeah, and on a huge scale, thousands a week. She was saying,
Yes, this is what's going on. There are literally certainly hundreds a week being taken away from their parents. And it's criminal. They actually have targets and of kids that they've got to be taken away from their parents. So, which is just, it's not even looking at each individual case on its own merits. It's obviously just thinking, all right, we've got to hit our target, just like the police with their, they are actually targeted on the actual income they have to generate from motorists. How crazy is it?
Yeah.
They're not the slightest bit interested in, finding lost children, but, they will pursue you for a parking ticket or a speeding fine. It's, the world is so upside down. I would say this country, but it's not just this country. We know it's happening all around the world.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to the point we were saying about the grand jury, then let's just have a hypothetical situation. Let's say that I came to you and I had evidence of, let's say, three police constables what are responsible for crime A. Let's just say, so I wanted to convey a grand jury on that. So all what I basically need then is at least 20 good men or women to sit there.
12. Any number between 12
and
12 and 23.
23, right, okay. So
12 and 23 for some reason. You'd also need an usher,
right,
who was aware of the, who understood the procedure, and you'd also need, I think that's all you need. I think you need an usher. Of course, you don't need a judge as such, because it's the jurors. And the jurors actually vote for a foreman, and it's the foreman that actually counts up. And I believe that they can't take a majority decision. It's got to be unanimous. Right. So if one juror says no, I don't think it is, then I don't think there is enough evidence to go forwards on this. Then it comes out as no case to go, no case to answer.
Would this procedure be filmed then, or would it all be down on paperwork from a point of view of?
It's all on paperwork, can't be filmed.
Yep.
Well, I don't know if it can or can't be filmed. You'd have to. We had experts on the Constitution. Funnily enough, the chap was an ex-policeman who's one of the experts.
Yeah.
Who studied this. And also we had, let's say, an ex-lawyer who was actually employed high up in the government as well. So the amazing thing is the standard and integrity of the people we had at the weekend. The government should be quaking, because you look at the sort of standard of integrity that you've got in the Conservative Party, or doesn't even matter. You look at George Osborne that looks like he's been coked out of his head half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's allegedly, obviously.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah. So back to my scenario then, John. Right, we've had a grand jury now. I presented the evidence I had. We had a unanimous decision that yes, this looks like it's true. Where do we go from there to actually prosecute the person to get them put into jail or whatever? How does it work from there?
I think we've got two routes. I think the first thing, you bundle it up and take it to the CPS, a Crime Prosecution Service, and see if they move with it. If they don't, then there's an opportunity for a private prosecution. And we had a lot of what are called LIPs, litigants in person, there over the weekend, who had actually taken court cases, because if you're not happy with something, you don't have to wait for the police to turn up and arrest somebody. You can actually take that person to court yourself, and this is what people are now doing. They're not. They've lost confidence in the system, and the system can squirm and wriggle, but it's when you've got excellent people coming in, and also, we know people are not only using quite in-depth information to actually bring down the court system, but let's say they're actually, I feel energetically, something's going on when this is a little bit earlier. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my words. A little bit earlier, you said, talking about information. And you said, do you think it's the fact that it's the internet and the information? Well, I think there are two things. I'm sure you're aware of this. There is the information, but there's also the consciousness. And the consciousness is currently rising. And it's not just those of us that, get onto forums and, of so there are people within civil service who are waking up to what is going on, and so it's getting to the stage where everything is going to be, it's more and more difficult as we move forward. We're going through a biggest shift in consciousness the planet has ever seen, in my opinion. And I think there's a lot to do with, it sounds a little bit out there, but I think it's a lot to do with 2012. 2012 wasn't the sort of like, the aliens are going to come and the end of the world or whatever it is. It was just the end of a sort of cycle of time. Just like at 6 o'clock this morning, when the sun came up, that was the night over, a day's beginning. So we have lots of cycles within cycles. And that was just the end of a very long cycle. So now we're in a new cycle. And, in the same way as at 5 o'clock this morning, most of us were fast asleep. But by 7 o'clock, I think I was just about waking up. I think I've sort of it took me a little while to get out of bed, but I was sort of waking up around 7. But, some people were still fast asleep at 10 o'clock this morning, if they'd been out, the night before or whatever. And some people stayed up all night. So what I'm saying is that these cycles of consciousness, whether they're day and night, or in the winter, people don't go out as much as they do in the summer because the temperatures. It's just a big cycle of consciousness that people are waking up from. And during the night, of course, a lot of very naughty people started doing something. Most people are asleep. We can get away with stealing from them. We can get away with telling them lies. But people are waking up to this now. And so the fact that we win, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. And this is what I don't understand, that these people are so... I can't believe that they still think that they could possibly win, because we're so far ahead of them now. All it is, they've still got control of the police, they've still got control of the courts, but this is breaking down.
Yeah, do you know what it is, John? In my opinion, I'll take it to another level of consciousness, if you want to call it that. That analogy, what he said, is fantastic about the people, sleeping up through the night, waking up. I think the consciousness and the reason why the elites are grasping on and still thinking they can win is because they've cut themselves off from that consciousness, and I call the universal consciousness the source, if you want to call it a god, if you want to, whatever you want to call it. And I think they've cut themselves off from that source so much that they just can't see the trees, the woods for the trees. You know what I mean? And people like us, can. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And not only have they cut themselves off from source, they've cut themselves off from their emotions. Yeah. So for them, if they think that, for them to throw a family, even if, as in some cases we've seen people who are ill, to throw them out on the street, just so they get paid for that day, they can do that and go home, or to use false paperwork to get people thrown out on the street, or to even, start the process in the first place without looking at all the options to keep people. You would think the banks would do everything they could to try and get their money back. But it seems to be the case that they do everything they can to get the property off the people without giving them the opportunity to pay, even pay the fraudulent money back, the money they don't own. So we've seen this time and time again. And I think it's just they're closed down emotionally. So they haven't got, we see these people, and because they got 2 legs, 2 arms and a head, that you think they've probably got the same sort of makeup as we have, that they, we don't like it when we see people being hurt or abused or, lied to, whatever. Some people have just not, I'm not saying they're any different from us, but I'm saying they have a different sort of emotional makeup, a lot of them. And this is where a guy called Thomas Sheridan's done some excellent work on psychopaths.
I was just about to say psychopaths, yeah.
Yeah, and psychopaths aren't they don't tend to be the mass murderers, and they tend to be the CEOs and people up in government and politicians. A lot of these people can start wars. And, you look at the Tony Blairs and the Mandelsons, a big smile, as they're starting wars illegally, so I think these are people that are going to have to, for their own safety, get themselves somewhere safe, so that they can stand trial.
Well, I've seen reports on the internet that elites they've got underground bunkers and things, craft to get out of the planet. So I think that's how much they're shitting themselves.
Well, they've got the underground bunkers. As far as getting off planet, my understanding is there's been a lockdown on anything coming into the planet or going out.
Yes, yeah.
And of course they've got a little bit more technology than the sort of Saturn V rockets, or even the what's it? Let's say that I believe they've got some very advanced technology. Yeah. So as I'm sure you're aware, it's just that we've been kept with this very old-fashioned technology, such as the internal combustion engine. And the jet engines and rockets, when there's far more advanced stuff that they're using.
Exactly. It's all about control, isn't it, John? End of the day, if they give us the technology, then we don't need them, do we? But as we know, we need to be based on oil and petrol and all that rubbish. Yeah.
I am looking forward to getting my own flying saucer when the technology comes out.
I'm looking forward to evolving to a place where I could just travel myself. Nano travel, eh? How cool would that be, John, eh? Who needs crafts?
Well, apparently if you spin your Merkaba, then you can travel anywhere in the universe.
Oh, dear. Right, I suppose we better get ourselves back onto track with a bit more of the what the show was supposed to be about, I suppose. Yeah. I do love talking about this stuff, though, John.
A couple of things I wanted to mention, actually, Alan.
Yeah.
One was... I think back how far I've come in and comprehension I sort of had a huge awakening in 1999.
John, can you just say that again? I couldn't hear you. You said
Yeah,
you started
actually,
your awakening, what?
Yeah, what it is, I'm actually, my broadband's down, so I'm actually using a 3G phone, so just occasionally the signal goes, just let me know. Yeah, back in the 90s, I was starting to wake up. By 1999, I had a big awakening where I pretty well saw everything for what it was and understood the control system to a large extent. And, it's only a little bit of detail I've filled in since then. But I remember back in the 90s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have we had the internet. We didn't have any information on the internet. It was long, YouTube didn't come out until like 2000, whatever. And so, I think, we had Google Video to begin with. And then, YouTube sort of took over from that. But what I'm saying is that in the 90s, I didn't have anyone I could talk to about any of this stuff because I didn't know anyone else that was into it. And the other thing is that if you wanted information about anything like that, the only thing you could get it from was like Nexus magazine, because there was no like radio stations or newsletters. So you had Nexus magazine. Remember that?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I can remember reading an article in Nexus magazine, and the article was called, "Is the Federal Reserve Private?" And now you think, well, what do you mean is the Federal Reserve? Everyone knows the Federal Reserve's private. But back then it was like, wow, that was groundbreaking stuff. And I read this about 5-page article, and it was interesting because it actually said how the Federal Reserve was set up with a meeting on Jekyll Island and these amazing historical events like that. And so you realise that it was actually like a financial coup. That's where, if you remember the cowboy films, the currency was actually created by the US Treasury. And all the notes said US Treasury. And now they say Federal Reserve. Since 1933, they say Federal Reserve. And this is, all I remember from the article basically was all you need to know is the Federal Reserve is not federal and it's got no reserves.
Yeah.
Much like the Bank of England.
Yep.
And people say, well, the government owns the Bank of England. I say, no, the Bank of England owns the government. Yeah, it's true. It is true. They, when you realise there's, about the Post of Remembrance in the House of Commons.
Do I know about that? No. Please tell me.
Right. Well, look it up on Wikipedia. Put in Remembrancer. It goes back to, I think it's around Henry VIII's time. What they're there to do is to ensure that no legislation is passed which would affect the City of London. Yeah. Now, you think you've got democracy, and they're always talking about, we're going to get the banks to do this, and the banks are going to do that. Well, the politicians have no control over the City of London because the City of London is not in England. Yeah, it's a separate city-state, just like Vatican City. Italy has no control over Vatican City, and America has no control over Washington, D.C., because they are separate city-states, all with their own obelisks, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and of course, they work together to keep control on the planet. They're doing their best at the moment, but
yeah, not for much longer. Yeah.
So, remembrance. That's one thing, and the other thing that I can't believe that what happens is the fact that you've still got lobbying going on. So you've got big corporations paid money to actually try and affect the decisions of MPs. That should be completely illegal in a free and democratic society. I put that in little speak apps.
Yeah. Yeah, democracy. It makes me laugh when they say they're going to spread democracy across the world. Yeah, what democracy means is bombing people into submission and nicking all the reserves, basically, and putting a Rothschild banking system in place.
Yes,
That's their democracy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The whole axis of evil are all the countries that aren't in the IMF.
Exactly. Yeah, too right. Yeah. Oh dear. Anyway, so we certainly talked about a wide variety of subjects today, John, compared to what we started on, didn't we?
Certainly have.
Could I just pull you back to one thing, what we talked about before we came on air?
Certainly.
A little bit boring compared to the last wide variety of subjects, but I saw on a video on UK Collar, what was on yesterday, about there's a guy, I think he was from dispatchuk.com, and he'd actually made a small dictionary, and it's like a few pages long, and it's like a guide for people that go into court. Do you know any more details about that?
Yes, if anyone wants one, I can certainly. What I'll try and do is get them on the site at some point so that we can actually share them. But it's basically a legalese dictionary, and it's got it's got things like ignoramus, I think, is one, and that's one to do with courts actually. And ignoramus is nothing to do with like being ignorant. It just means, in fact, I can't remember the exact definition now. I think it means that the actual decision is void, or can't move ahead. But a human being is also a monster as well. That's one of the ones that So you look up these words, and they have absolutely the opposite meaning to what they do. And just a simple one is when they say they may do something, may and must get mixed up. All this is designed to confuse us, nothing else. It's designed to confuse us. Now, where else would you have a legal system with its own language specifically designed to confuse us? And they call it justice.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying. Sorry, mate. I was talking over you. Then I couldn't. You went off. Carry on.
Go on. Say that again.
You just cut off there with your 3G.
Yeah. My broadband's worse.
So basically, this little pamphlet with this dictionary I was talking about is it the sort of thing what you can actually take into court yourself then, and when the judge is actually talking to you and in the legalese, you can actually understand what it actually means, or you study.
I think if you've got any chance of coming up against a judge, you'll have actually memorised the book and the legislation, and you can't really do it on the hoof. You've got to be spot on. But ideal for documents and things like that.
Yeah, all right, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good to know. I'll get one of those myself. So that website is your website, which is getoutofdebtfree.org, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So if anybody listening wants to go and obviously, I don't think you've put those on there yet, have you, John? But you're going to do shortly, did you say?
Yes. I can. Yeah, I'll try and get hold of some of them. They're about, because they've done quite a small print run, so they're about a tenner each, but well worth the
absolutely
well worth the investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, you said you had about an hour to spare, so is there any more things you want to talk about?
Well, I've got a couple of things I'd like to cover. One is an update on the nature of the cage. You might remember seeing the the trailer for it last year, and this is a documentary film by a guy called Jon Witterick, and he was behind one of the guys behind Resonance Beings of Frequency, and he's almost finished Strawman Nature of the Cage. It is going to really blow the lid off an awful lot of different areas. And the thing is, it's a professionally made documentary which is going to go out free on YouTube. It's going to have a slightly shortened version going out on YouTube. It's then going to have a slightly extended version going out which people can actually purchase so that he can recoup some of his costs, because he's actually, had to use professional studios up at L Street to actually create the thing, and all done on professional equipment. But as I say, it's going out, the basic, the main amount of it is going to go out for free. And I think it's going to go viral. I think it's going to wake an awful lot of people up to what's going on. Awesome. So I am really, really excited about that. So as soon as it goes up, he's literally on the final cut of it now. He's going through it, doing the colour balancing and, sorting the sound out, things like that. So when that comes out, it's going to be very, very exciting. This year, there's so many things that are all coming together, apart from this excellent conference that we had, which so many people referred to spirituality in their talks and presentations. In fact, I think nearly everyone did. They were all talking about it, referencing it in one way or another, and how amazing synchronicity comes together. Yeah. So, these things that you think, oh, what is the chance of that? Like somebody would get a phone call from somebody that's got a little bit of evidence from a case, or from somebody within a police station that can see what's going on and feeling bad will phone up and say, oh, look, a bit of information for you here on so-and-so. Look into that. And things like this that are just, absolutely amazing. So there's awful lot changing. We've got a very, very powerful solar eclipse. We've got the equinox coming up. And we know that when these things happen, you get more change in energy coming onto the planet. And these shifts in energy are helping wake people up. So very, very exciting time all round.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Right, so what was the name of that documentary again, John?
It's called Straw Man, Nature of the Cage.
And that's going to be coming out, within the next month or so, is it? Or is it?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be. Should be out certainly in the next month or so. Yeah, he's almost finished it, and so I think when it does come out, it's going to wait. It's going to be an ideal sort of thing that you can share with people. Say, well, look, you might not believe me, but look at this. Because the other thing he's done, he's another one of these that's very good at going through statutes and things like that. And so he's gone through it as if it would be presented in court. So what he's done, he's ensured that he can actually reference everything which is actually mentioned in the film. He can actually say, well, hang on. So he's cross-referenced everything. So it'll be absolutely bulletproof. Wow. And nobody will be able to say, no, it's bulletproof.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't wait for that to come out, because I'll definitely spread that about as much as I can. There was one more thing I was going to ask you, John, I've just remembered. After watching one of the videos you did the other week, the one I posted on your I posted it the other day,
Yep.
the conference, on your own. You was talking about the time banks. Well, I went out and I joined the time bank in my local area. And I just wanted to know if you'd like to tell people what a time bank is, and because I think it's a great thing for people to know, to bring back the community and how an alternative to the money system, basically. So would you just like to tell them a bit about that?
Yeah, well, the time banking is a brilliant idea. I mean, we couldn't afford, as a society, we can't afford to make sure everyone has provision for looking after kids or looking after the elderly, because we've got this ridiculous monetary system which makes people's, makes employing people very, very expensive, and stops getting things done that need doing. However, with time banking, it allows people to share their labour in the community. So everyone can do jobs for each other, even if they haven't got any money. So in areas that are deprived, or areas of high unemployment especially, amazing social projects can go on. Go to timebanking.org for more information. But it's basically it just gets back to, at the moment we've got a situation where you've got barristers in the City of London that can earn in excess of £400 an hour, and there are other people that aren't taking hours contracts that in a month, and to be valued the same amount regardless of their skills. So it's a brilliant way. We're looking to incorporate it into a festival so that those volunteers that come to a festival can actually put something in, and it'll cut down the price of their festival ticket because they'll be able to offset it. So yeah, we're looking at incorporating into some of the things that we do at some of the events that I'm involved with in the summer.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I mean, well, like I said, I heard you speak about it the other month, and I applied for it online, going to the website you just said, and a guy came to meet me, and he sat down, a superb guy, we had a really good conversation, actually opened his eyes to a lot of the things about the world like we talk about, so it was quite interesting, but he was very open to it. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But the way it works, like I said, I was really impressed. I mean, he asked me what skills I'd got, so I told him what I could do and what I wanted, and then he told me about this. You work for somebody, you have a credit, and that credit's like in the bank, and then when somebody comes along with, like say my wife wanted a haircutting, for instance, an hairdresser on there, that's one of your credits. They come to your house and cut your wife's hair, so that repays back for the hour you've put in. And I just think it's an awesome concept. It really is. Totally,
yeah, it is, and it's something we can use straight away. And because it's not like Bitcoin, everyone goes on about Bitcoin because, you know, it's suddenly worth loads of money. But that's almost like it's still in the old paradigm of people speculating and wanting more and more and more. And in reality, I think that whatever is going to bring communities together now, let's start using it. You know, I think it's, we used to have the Let's systems, which was a local exchange trading system. And I think the time banking, it just seems to be a little bit more organised. The website has got really good resources on it, and the local organisers seem to be very, very good. So unfortunately, I haven't got one close in my area, but we are looking to become what's called a hub around one of our festival organisations. So yeah, all very exciting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the thing I love about it is, like I say, it's the community side of things. That's what I mean. Our society is designed by the elite is to separate everyone, may even separate families, children from their mums and dads. But this sort of project brings the community back together. And when you're going to somebody's house to do, let's say, cut the wife's hair like the lady would do, then you're making friends. You're telling people about what you're doing, and you bring people into your circle of friends, don't you? And that's what this sort of stuff is the way to beat the elite at the game, because you're spreading what we know to people in a communal type scenario while getting out of the monetary system at the same time. So it's just a fantastic way of doing it. And I think another thing as well is, for me, it's like the recycling side of things. Once you realise that you haven't got money on tap, and it's more of a taking care of Gaia called Mother Earth. It's like, for instance, let's say you're a carpenter and you make yourself some chairs and tables. You're not going to chuck that away in a year's time and get the latest one from the latest furniture shop, are you, John? You're going to keep it and cherish it because you made it. And I think people need to get back to that, growing their own food. You're not going to chuck away loads of produce what you've bought from Sainsbury's because you bought too many. You've grown your own. You're going to cherish it. You're going to be eating organic, fantastic produce what you've made, and you share with somebody else. I mean, we just have to get back to the way of living, and I call it getting back to Gaia, getting back to Mother Earth. It's just that's what we need to do. Get away from all this capitalism and spending and want. We need to get back to the ways of the Mother Nature. Do you agree?
I totally agree with that. And a lot of the festivals that I'm involved with in the summer, one of them is called Green Gathering, and that's very much to do with off-grid living and using lots of basically how we can do things in alignment with the planet. And the whole festival is actually run off solar and wind power, and so there's no generators, no three-phase electricity or anything like that. All wind and solar.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the way forward, mate. Absolutely. Right then, John. It's been an hour and I think it's about an hour and 5 minutes. Is it hour, whatever? Are you ready to go, or do you want to carry on? It's up to you.
I'm going to have to get on, unfortunately, Alan. But I'd certainly like to come back, and do another one sometime, because I think we've only sort of skimmed the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll just go into the spiritual, the consciousness side of things. I think go into all them sort of subjects, John.
I need to talk about there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, mate. Well, anyway, thanks for coming on and taking the time out of your busy schedule. I really, really do appreciate it. I've been trying to get you on for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Talk
problem.
to you soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon, mate. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.